Hi everyone, Gene here. Welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, where every single week we answer the most common and uncommon questions about tapping and EFT so you can get more out of your tapping practice. You can get every single episode delivered to your smartphone absolutely free. All you need to do is send a text message to 33444. That's 5 digits, 33444. In that text message, all you need to do is put one word, tapping, Tapping, and you'll get instructions on how you can get this delivered to your phone absolutely free of tar on Android and Apple devices. Also, if you haven't checked it out already, last week we had a really interesting conversation and tapping around grief, and for grief in those times in our life that have nothing to do with death. Grief makes a lot of sense when someone we love has died, but oftentimes grief shows up in other ways where it's kind of lurking in the background, and we have a great conversation about that. This is Gene Monterastelli, and welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, recorded live to tape from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 332, originally aired October 10th, 2018. Hi, everyone. I hope this finds you well wherever you are and whatever time of day you're getting a chance to listen to this. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Today, we're going to be having a conversation about generational healing, how we can pass healing back our generational lines, and why sometimes it's really difficult for us to heal because of our relationship to those who came before us. If you haven't done so already, we have a free 10-part guide that will help you to eliminate self-sabotage using tapping. All you need to do is go to tappingqa.com, click on the big blue button. If you happen to be listening to this in the website right now, up in the right-hand column, there is a blue button that you can click so you can get that 10-part guide absolutely free. I want to send a big shout out to everyone who supports the Tapping Q&A podcast every single month. A portion of that support goes to a donation to Kiva. Kiva is a microloan website that sends money to small business owners all over the world. This month, that support went to Ibrahim. Ibrahim lives in Egypt, and he is in a process of growing his dairy herd so that he can support his family, his 3 children, his wife, and his aging parents. This was an opportunity for him to buy a second cow so he can now take care of his family in a more effective way. If you would like more information about that particular contribution, all you need to do is go to tappingqa.com/support. And if you too would like to be a supporter of the podcast, do work like we're doing with Ibrahim and receive some really amazing thank you gifts every single month, including our next free supporters only bonus podcast. All you need to do is go to tappingqa.com/support. So back in episode 292, I did an interview about how information about trauma can be passed down our generational lines through our DNA. And this is a really new area of study. And this is important and useful because there are times in which we recognize limiting beliefs and fears, but there's no initial sensitizing event because that initial sensitizing event didn't happen to us. It actually happened to someone in a generation or two before us. And because they were afraid of something, that fear actually got encoded into our DNA. And this doesn't mean that we're permanently stuck with it, but it gives us a really different approach. Because when we recognize the fact that there isn't a memory to our limiting belief, then it's going to transform the way we tap. Because if we're only looking for that initial sensitizing event, we're never going to clear that particular issue. So I'd really encourage you to go back to episode 292 to check that out. Just go to tappingpodcast.com, click on the link for 292. I will also include a link in the show notes. But there's a different aspect to this generational healing. And this came up because of a conversation that I was having with a couple of clients recently. It came up on more than one occasion, and that's why I wanted to address it here. Sometimes we are in a situation where part of our identity, particularly our identity to our family or our culture, is defined by the trauma that we experience. You know, the men in my family are never any good in relationships. And when we think in that particular way, it can be difficult for us, or we create resistance to healing that particular issue because there is a part of us that is afraid that we are disconnecting from our family, from our culture, from our group, because we are moving beyond this trauma. That we are afraid that we're leaving our family behind, or our family is going to judge us, even family who have passed on. And if this exists, even if it's in a subconscious way, then you are not going to be successful with your healing, because there is a part of you that recognizes a pain that comes with healing. If I heal this thing, I am disconnected. If I keep this thing, I stay connected to my family, to my culture, to my group, whatever that association is. And so it makes it really difficult for us to heal. And what's really interesting is oftentimes the generations before us have worked really, really hard to put us in a position so we don't have to face the same struggles they faced. When you look at the story of immigrant families all over the world, they move from one country that is known and they are connected to another country where they are disconnected and starting from scratch because they want better for their kids. They want better for their grandkids. They want them to live a new and different life. And so one generation is making choices to make it easier, and the current generation is afraid to make it easier because they're disconnecting from that previous generation. And so we get caught in a place that is stuck. And I was working with a client, this was a number of years ago, and as I was kind of doing the notes for this particular episode, this came to mind, and it was really striking as I thought about it. One time I was doing generational work where we recognized this pattern that had existed, and we were tapping on the particular issue. And as the client was tapping on the issue, and she could feel the healing being passed back through the generation. So it wasn't that she was just doing the healing for herself, but she felt as if she was releasing it for everyone who came before her. And the way she described it was she imagined it being passed down the family tree. And as the healing was passed down the family tree, the healing was being passed to more and more people down the family tree. And the way that she described it was, it sounded like applause. And at first it was just the previous generation, so it was only a few people clapping. And then it was the next generation, which meant more people were clapping. And the next generation meant more people were clapping. And she described it as if there was all of a sudden this amazing round of applause that was growing louder and louder as the healing was passing its way back. And so it wasn't an experience of disconnecting because I am healing this wound, but instead I am doing honor to and giving benefit to those who came before me by healing this particular thing. So that's what we're going to do today, is we're going to do a little tapping that is going to set up your ability to release this without having to worry about what other generations are going to think, or to being fearing that generations are judging us. And again, this is a tricky issue, not to tap for on your own, but to recognize on your own. That this isn't something I've ever uncovered on my own. I've uncovered it a lot with my clients. I've uncovered it myself when I'm working with a practitioner I work with, because this is a real blind spot for us to not recognize this is the reason why we're not healing this. So this is a tap along that you might find useful, even if you haven't identified this as a problem for you yet. So think about one of those issues or the cacophony of issues that you would like to work on. Tap on the side of the hand for me and just take a nice big deep breath. Take another nice big deep breath. And just move from tapping point to tapping point, repeating after me. I recognize the fact that some of the issues that I face are issues that many people who have come before me face. And because this issue has been around so long, There's a part of me that has taken my identity in this problem. There's a part of my family that has taken its identity in this problem. And I am worried that if I take the time to truly heal this, then I'm going to disconnect myself from my family. That I'm going to say I'm better than my family. That I am going to be leaving them behind. Because they are stuck in this and I no longer am. I recognize the fact healing my wounds does not disconnect me from my family. Many who have come before me have worked hard so I can have a better life. So I don't have to stay in this place. Healing these issues is not disrespecting my family. Healing these issues is doing honor to my family. I am acknowledging what they have done to put me in this position. To do this healing today. I recognize also this healing isn't only about me. It's about all those who came before me as well. I am given the opportunity to pass this healing back. And share it over many generations. I recognize this is an opportunity for me to heal. I recognize this is an opportunity to share that healing as well. My healing is not a disconnecting moment. Instead, my healing is an opportunity to share with all those who came before me. Nice deep breath. I would be really interested as you tapped on something like that to hear what your experience was. Did you see particular faces of the people who came before you or particular stories that come to mind? Did you get insight into other issues that you can tap for? Oftentimes when we do something like this, all of a sudden we're presented a new detail. Because that resistance is gone, we can now see a new healing doorway that we get to walk through by doing that particular work. So if you've had any of those experiences, I would really love to hear how those go. You can always email me, Gene, Gene at tappingqa.com. If you happen to be listening to this in the website, just click on the contact link. If you're listening to this in the free Tapping Q&A app, which is available on Android and Apple devices, if you click the contact link, right inside of the contact link, you can send me a voice message or you can send me an email right from inside of the app. If you have the app, you can also see that there is a typed out version of this script. So you can go back and you can use it again. The app can be downloaded absolutely free just by going to tappingpodcast.com. Also, if you're listening to this on the website, down below the player, you'll see the script that we just tapped to written out, so you can print it out and take it with you. If there's someone in your life who you think could use something like this, please be our ambassador. Pass it along. Don't spam your inbox. The easiest way for someone to find, the most common way for someone to find a new podcast to listen to is by a recommendation for a friend. So please pass it along. If you haven't done so, again, sign up for the free 10-part guide that you can use to eliminate self-sabotage, tappingqa.com. If you have any questions, any comments, or anything else, not just on this episode, but something you'd like to see us cover in the future, you can always email me, same email address, Gene, Gene, @tappingqa.com. For the Tapping Q&A podcast, this is Gene Monterastelli. I hope you have a great day, that you found this tapping useful, and I will talk to you real soon. Bye-bye. The Tapping Q&A podcast is copyright Gene Monterastelli, Tapping Q&A 2016. All views expressed by guests are those of the guests and not necessarily of Gene Monterastelli or Tapping Q&A.